Hi everyone, welcome to the Property Finance Podcast, and today we're carrying on our series of frequently asked questions, although today I'm joined by a guest, Adam Powell, who's been with the Property Finance Collective now for about 4 years, joined us as a broker helping on the development finance and bridging finance side of things. So today we're going to talk about what do you actually need to get together to get a set of development terms, and it's a question that we're asked pretty much, I would say, on a daily basis. So Adam, talk us through, what do we need to get a set of development terms?
Yeah, we do get approached by a lot of clients that for development projects, and they want a set of terms. The more information we get, the more meaningful the terms we can get from the lender. So it's key. There's some basic stuff that we need, I think, to get some meaningful terms from lenders, and lenders prefer that as well. So the first thing really is, if there's a limited company that's already been set up, we need the name of the limited company and who the directors are, who the shareholders are. Second thing is what's their experience? What have they done in the past? And it doesn't have to be War and Peace, just a brief summary of what they've done in the past, because they want to see that if there's been an experience in the past, let's see what they've done.
And with that experience, one of the big things as well is, obviously, it's not just their experience, is it? They need the experience of the contractor and what contractor they bring on. And this is something that comes up pretty much on a daily basis, I think, for me as well, is people supplying us details of contractors, and we look at it and go, well, hang on a minute, this is someone who's done extensions or small refurbs, etc. And then all of a sudden we've got a client who's doing a 20-unit development. And you think, well, no, you need to go and find a proper contractor, proper main contractor.
Exactly that.
Who's got experience of doing something similar.
And similarly, it's making sure that the contractor you're bringing on board, if you look at their past, look at their track record, as far as, have they had businesses going pop over the last 5-10 years on a regular basis, because they'll be classed as very high risk, and you wouldn't want that type of contractor on board anyway, looking after your project.
Bizarrely, lenders tend to look at Companies House, which all of us know it's 18 months out of date, but Companies House needs to show that contractor as being liquid, good cash flow, etc., cash in the bank, because you and I both know one of the biggest things that they're looking for is a contractor that can cash flow through that development. Because at the end of the day, with development finance being released in arrears, they need to make sure that contractor can get through that development, because if they can't and the contractor goes bust halfway through, it's a nightmare scenario all around, I think, isn't it?
It is. And the last thing you want is a lender having to step in. That's the last thing you want. That is very important. The next thing we really need is obviously what's the security address, what's the site address, and indeed what is it right now? Because is it a commercial building? Is it just a piece of land? What is it? Next, we'll need to know what has he got planning for, and what would be really good is if they also supply the planning reference number or even a link to the planning portal, because then we can go onto the website, take a look at what's been approved. We can download various documents from there as well.
Well, we can send it to the lender as well, can't we, for them to download what they need to download and do the relevant due diligence that they want to do on that planning permission as well.
That's it. Next, really is what are they purchasing it for, or if they already own it, what's it currently valued at, estimated, what indeed the build costs are going to be, or the full development costs. And when we get clients providing us with all manner of breakdown. It can be quite detailed, it can be pretty basic, but as long as we have a figure that's somewhat broken down, the one key thing to remember is that practically all lenders want a 10% contingency actually built in based on the build costs. So that's something that everybody needs to sort of remember.
And in what circumstances, so again, we know the answer to this, but we know that we can get away potentially with a 5% contingency sometimes on conversions, for example.
Sometimes.
But also, there are some lenders where we can't get away with anything less than 15, maybe even 12.5%. So I think that 10% contingency, although it sits in the middle, I think it's worth mentioning that it can potentially be lower if the QS, and that's the important bit, is if the QS agrees it can be lower, or it may even need to be higher if the QS deems it to be a high risk project.
Yeah, I think the key thing is the default setting should really be 10%, and if it turns out to be lower, then great. It can be, depending on the profile, it can be higher. And the next thing is what is the build term? We offer, there's other brokers out there just say, well, what term do you want? And they say, it's going to take me 12 months to build it, so I want 12 months. No, it's what's the build term? Because if it's 12 months, we need to add on 3 to 6 months to allow time for either to sell or to refinance at the end of it. Give them plenty of time. Next is what's the GDV, the end value. And it'd be good if they actually broke it down per unit, if they're building more than one unit or converting into more units.
And when you say break it down per unit as well, I think it's worth mentioning that that doesn't just mean individual sales price. That's actually what's the square foot of each individual unit, especially if it's flats, etc. We need to know that, because if they're only below 30 square metres or under new size standards under 35 square metres, we need to know if anything falls under that, because obviously we need to raise that as an issue.
That does tend to
early
pop
doors.
up on a couple, but it's these days we don't get to see it until when the valuation pops up. But it's definitely something we have to pick up quite early on.
Yeah.
And last but not least, is effectively what is the exit strategy from the development finance facility? Are they going to sell it? Are they going to refinance it? Or what we've been seeing a lot of quite recently is that it's sort of part and part. So they'll sell some of the units and retain some of the units.
Yeah.
But as long as we have that amount of information, when we go off to the lenders and do our formal presentation to them, we've got something that's tangible, that actually makes sense.
And what if we don't have that information?
Well, basically, we then go to the lenders who'll go, okay, we're going to be producing some terms here, but they know as well as I do that actually sometimes that whilst we get terms, they're probably not going to be worth the paper they're written on, because it's so basic.
Yeah, and that's the important thing for clients to, I think, keep in mind, is that if the information that we're provided with is basic in its format or lacking detail or whatever it may be, there needs to be that awareness that, okay, here's a set of terms. However, if actually something comes out of the woodwork or the more detailed figures are different, obviously they need to be aware that those figures are going to change down the line. And I think it's very difficult to make those informed decisions off something that's, well, as you described earlier, like a fag packet, isn't it? If that's what we're provided with, that's what you're going to get back.
Yeah, and I think that leads on to sort of things like due diligence. If they're providing us with a GDV figure, okay, make sure you're going out there and looking at some comparables. What properties are out there at the moment?
Yeah.
That have been sold that are similar to the ones you're actually building or converting into. So the more due diligence you do at the front end, the easier it is when it comes to presenting it. So there aren't going to be those nasty surprises when the QS comes back with his report or the valuer comes back with his report. Actually, it looks nothing like what we've been originally presented with. But I think as far as those points are concerned, if you stick to that, usually we can get some very good terms back pretty quickly. And apart from us appreciating it, because obviously it makes it easier for us to then present it to the lender.
Yeah, absolutely.
The lenders appreciate it as well, and they tend to pay attention a little bit more to those.
Well, it pricks their ears up, doesn't it? Because the amount of deals that they see on a daily, I mean, we have this conversation with BDMs pretty much every day. The amount of deals that they're sent that are, I mean, some even just a name, a number, and address. I mean, that's literally all they get sent. And it's like, well, what am I meant to do with this? And I think that's the other thing is being able to provide that information sets you apart from probably 90% of other developers who are going for finance at the minute. And I think, like you said, it pricks their ears up, and you do get that attention that
they take you more seriously.
Yeah.
And that's what you want.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Amazing. Thank you very much. Right, that's it for today. Thank you very much for listening. Catch you on the next one.